Good morning. Hi, I'm Kent Seacrest with Prairie Quilt, and I am really excited to show you this new technique I learned on the Pfaff Powerquilter P3. And if you like to do nesting on your quilting and you want to have it so they're offset, it can be a complicated procedure, but I have got it figured out to make it really easy. I'm going to show you right now, so let's get started. So let's say you've quilted on your quilt. I'm going to assume you know how to do up to now to get your quilt started and a row of quilting done, and this is a pantograph. It's edge to edge, and I've got this pattern that I want to repeat. But if I did another row of this exact pattern, the points are going to leave large areas of unquilted. So what I'd like to do is shift it over a half a pattern and nest inside and also have it look good and get it lined up. So how do I do that? Well, first thing you got to know, if you're going to do a quilt like this and you choose your pattern, you have to leave extra on the edges. You should anyway, but you're going to have at least enough room for one of these repeats here to sew out here. And then as long as you do that, we're going to show you what to do. So once you've done your pattern, you're going to come to your Quilt Artist and you're going to go to the button in the top right corner that's called Edit, and you're going to touch Edit. And with the Edit screen at the very bottom, you see the word Properties. You touch that, and it's going to tell you how big your pattern is. The width is 13.8 and the height is 4.97. I recommend taking your smartphone out of your purse or your pocket and taking a picture of that so you've got an easy reference so you can go right back to it without having to remember. You can just write it down, but this makes sure there's no accidents. Anyway, so we've got our numbers, and we're going to go to the Home button, and we're going to go down to Pattern Box, and we're going to add a pattern box because we're not going to mess with that. The one we have, we're going to add a new one. So the new pattern box, we're going to go down here to the bottom left, all the way down to the bar, even with about where we're going to quilt, where we did our last pattern, and we're going to add it in. So I'm just going to put the pattern box about where I want it. Doesn't have to be exact. I'm going to go a little high to make sure there's plenty of room to see everything we're doing. So I went lower than I needed to go and higher than I needed to go. So I'm not going to hit the bar, and I'm not going to go too high up into here. I just went a little higher. So now I'm going to add the pattern that I added in this pattern box. I'm going to add it into this box. I'm going to hit Home, Add Pattern, and since I've already added it, it's right there. And I select the pattern, and now I'm going to change the size to the size that I had on the last one. So I've got it on my phone here. I've got the numbers. So I'm just going to look on my phone, 1308. And 497. So there we go. Say okay. Now that pattern is the right size. Now we're going to need 3 repeats instead of 2, because see, there's 2 in each set. We're going to need 3 of them so we can have them hanging off the edge. So I'm going to go to the Edit button. I'm going to go to Repeat, and I'm going to change it to 3 across. So now what I want to do is I want to sew this right up in here. Well, how do I do that? Well, to do it, I'm going to create this one more time. I'm going to add that pattern into the same pattern box. So I'm going to touch the pattern. I'm going to bring it in, and you can see it there, but whenever you bring it in, it's not selected. You have to, whenever you're going to deal with 2 patterns, you have to hit Next before you deal with your next pattern. So I'm going to hit Next. Now I'm dealing with that pattern. I'm going to repeat it twice. And now I want to change something else, so I have to hit Next. And now I'm going to go to Properties, and I'm going to change the size again to this one, just like the last one, to make it exactly the same, 1308 and 497. So there we go. It's the exact size. And so now I have 2 sets of patterns, and one is got 2 repeats and one has 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this pattern here right on top of this one that I've sewn, but I'm going to do it on the screen. I'm going to show you how to do that. And you'll understand, it'll make more sense when I'm done. You'll understand a little bit, but I'm going to hit Edit, Next. So now I'm working with that pattern, and now I'm going to hit Properties, and I'm going to move my start point once I put my needle right over the exact point that this last pattern's sewn. So if I move start point, see that pattern just jumped up to where this one sewed. So now my pattern is right on top of it. You can't see it because they're on top of each other. So now what I want to do is I want to move the new pattern that I want to sew. I just physically just drag it wherever I want. See, I'm lining it up. I just use these arrows or drag it, get it exactly where I want. This represents the pattern that just sewed. This is the new pattern. And see, I've got it all lined up. So now what I want to do is get rid of that pattern because I don't really want to sew that one. And now I'm going to remove. There it is. So now this pattern is lined up to this pattern, and I did it on the screen. So to repeat what I did there, the first thing I wanted to do to line it up is I moved this pattern on the screen to right on top of it so that I could visually line up the second pattern. So now watch this. I'm going to sew this out, and it's going to sew out perfect in alignment, and I don't have to do anything fancy. It is going to start off my quilt, but that's the only way I can shift my nest. See how well that lines up? Don't be afraid of this. When you try it, you'll find it's really easy. You just have to follow step by step with the video, and you'll find you can do this with any pattern that doesn't line up without offsetting it. So it'll give you new options. Can you imagine this all the way down a quilt? How beautiful will this be? Thank you so much for watching, and come back and see many videos as we continue to post.